How's everyone doing out there? Peace and blessings to the hearers and doers of the Lord's word. This is Solican, the messenger. I want to go ahead and get into this real topic, this biblical message. Let the dead bury the dead. What do you really like? How do you, I want you to think about this. In today's day and age, when people die, and they have funerals, just look, do you think that everyone there really cared about that person? When you really look at it, this is why Jesus Christ told the disciples, let the dead bury the dead. This is why Jesus was moving like that. He wasn't tripping. Like, people put too much reverence on people's death instead of trying to put the emphasis on treating them good while they're alive. And I don't like that. And that's not right. And God doesn't like that. So that's called being phony. And I get sick of that. When people pass, you get everyone to try to come around and act like, more people come to the funeral than you ever see in your life. Like, than the people have ever saw in their lifetime. Like, what I'm saying is that more people are at the funeral, but the same people could have been there for the person during their life. It's not like people put too much emphasis on events and things like that instead of putting the emphasis on treating people good while they're here. That seems to be a problem for people. It's good. It's easy to go, say some good words about a person when they're no longer here on the planet Earth. When they already in the afterlife, they didn't passed on to the next life. It's easy to come and say some kind words about them and make it seem like, they were just, you and them were just the ace boon coons, the closest ever, or that person was just the best person ever. It's easy to do that. You understand? But it's harder. It takes more effort and work to go to be around a person when they're alive to find out what's really wrong, to help them, while they're alive, to give them the gift of the Lord while they're alive, and things like that. People don't, it take to care for someone while they're alive, to help them. Again, it takes work. You understand? That takes work. It's easy to show up somewhere, give some fake crocodile tears, say how much, how good of a person they were. That's why Jesus Christ wasn't so concerned with that. He was like, you let the dead bury the dead. We have work to do. Don't sit in despair and sorrow. You got to look at the times, every time, even times when people die tragically. The Lord, gave people a time to mourn, but shortly after, God's rallying you up to move. Like, you got to move on, to stick. Some people stay so stuck in wallowing about the dead and things like that they can't even move forward with their own life. Some people, you have people who actually, they say they call it in this world, people call it dying from a broken heart. I don't, no one can classify that and say that's true, but a lot of people do they pretty much just allow themselves to just deteriorate mentally and physically and end up passing on by worrying about the dead, worrying about people who've passed on. They long for them. They want to be with them. They miss them. And I totally understand that and get that. But to let that to bring death upon your life, that's what happens. You invest too much into death, and that creeps on your life. The Lord involved you got to understand, the Lord had rules and parameters for the Israelites not to be around dead things. For those who was handling the dead bodies and things like that, they had to cleanse themselves. The Lord was saying this. You had to cleanse from handling dead bodies and dead things. You had to cleanse yourself before the Lord, before you got to him. So it's like those things are unclean to God. And then you basically doing some spirit medium stuff. Some people are so gone behind lost loved ones, they be going to spirit mediums. You demonizing your own self. This is why the Lord told you, let the dead bury the dead. Jesus Christ was very adamant about and very candid when telling his disciples, look, let's keep moving. You understand? We don't have time to be sitting in mourning and for what? Like, that's the problem in funerals today, and all of these things, that these ceremonies that's had in by man, because there's not no, like, you're supposed to really be celebrating a person's life. You understand? And if you treated them right in this life, then you should be fine with them passing on and going to the Lord. If that person was really living like you say, why are you crying? If that person was really living like you say they were, why are you even crying for them? You will be there shortly. To be real, like, this isn't like in biblical times. Methuselah living, hundreds of years. Adam living hundreds of years. Man, we got about 100. We got about 80 years. 100. Let's just say 100. Some people may let it be 100, but that's the exception to the rule. So we'll say, let's round it off at 80, 70, 80. You got about 70, 80 years to be here on the earth. So you got work to do. You worried about the dead and things like that. You hadn't even got your spirit right with God. You don't even have a relationship with the Creator. You really need to be worried about yourself. And now people really be weeping in their spirit because they know that a lot of their loved ones are in hell. Now, that's true weeping, and if that's the case, hey, I understand that. I understand why you crying in. I get it, But if you say, for some of us, we've had like loved ones, grandmothers, things like that. These women were what you call a cutter lady. You understand? Meaning went to church every Sunday, went to church on Tuesday, went to the church functions. You have some grandmothers who were just the matriarchs of the family, grandfathers, who was pastors, matriarchs of their family. They taught God to their whole family. They made it a point to give God to their whole family, teach Jesus Christ to their whole household. That's, they did the work of the Lord. Those women and men and women, why are you crying for them? Like, that's kind of like, to me, that's kind of like slapping God. That's a lack of faith. And that's kind of like slapping God in the face. It's like saying, man, like, what you did is void, or what you did, like, they not in a better place. You're lying, like God's a liar. Hey, man, are you nuts? Man, people be suffering here on earth. You understand? Spiritually, mentally, and physically. You know that. So don't sit here and be acting like when it's either you believe what God say or not. Dude, that's the problem with people today. And that's what God has told me. That's what God has shown me today. That people today are phony. Stop doing that. God don't like the dual mindedness, this heart this hidden heart you have, because everything will come to the light. You need to open yourself up a little bit open yourself up to the Lord first, but open yourself up and understand, man, that you need to just be real out here, because you're hurting yourself when you're not being real. And to be honest, like I said, a lot of us know that our loved ones weren't living right. They passed and they dead now. You didn't do, but what did you do to help them get on the right path? That's the sad tragedy of it. What did you do to jump in the breach and intervene for them to get in the right path? Now, if you have the people who I just mentioned, who had a relationship with the Creator and was teaching you about the Creator, and had and God had them in the book of life. Why do you care? I mean, not even saying care. I mean, that's the wrong word, because of course we're going to miss our loved ones. But why are you sitting there acting like it's a tragedy, or crying like and making yourself sick and doing all that? Why are you doing? Do you think they will want that for you? They in a better place. Don't get it twisted ever. Earth is corrupted and polluted. Look, it's getting worse. And it's not saying that you can't have happiness and joy here, but do you think that heaven, a place where God resides, where there's perfect order, no strife, do you think that this is better? Come on, man. You got to get real. Be real with yourself. That means you don't believe God. That means you do not believe God. That means you don't trust him and everything. So you could just hang it up. Quit. Just be real with yourself and tell him and understand that fact. And you need to worry about yourself, because you can end up in the lake of fire. Do you understand? Like, you have an eternal, your spirit is eternal. And God says that when he comes back, he's going to give us eternal bodies that doesn't die. You understand? We're not going to ever, like, your spirit is what powers your body. God's going to give you an eternal body that never dies, never gets sick, no strife, nothing like that. No mental illness, none of that. God's gonna, so that's what you have in heaven. Do you think that those people are unhappy? Like, you got people who died and they were old, they had Alzheimer's, they were old. I know I had loved ones who, like I said, were on fire for the Lord. Like, they taught us about God. And they ended up with, they may have had Alzheimer's, or just gotten old. And those people had illnesses and ailments. Your body, this body gets old and deteriorates due to sin, the sin nature. Do you think that they're happy? They were happy, suffering like that, running back and forth, these doctors making them experiments. Doctors basically experiment on them, got them running back and forth. Man, do you think these people do you think these people were happier here at that point, or in heaven, when in heaven the Lord get them a new body? They got their youth back. They can run again. They can fly. They can do all types of things, in the heavenly realm. They can see. Some people can see. They can see. They get their 20/20 vision back. They can hear again. They can smell flowers again. They can, a man, he has his strength back again. Do you think that they're not happy? Why are you crying for them? I know I had loved ones, man, who passed, man, old. They were old, like, and I don't use the term old lightly. I won't say I'm old till I'm 80, but I had people, Lord willing, I'll make it there. But I have loved ones who've passed and they were old. You understand? Some barely knew who you were, when you saw them. Some I have older, and I've seen suffering from elderly people, and I've seen the suffering on this earth. I have a relationship with the Creator God, and I also have had visions of the heavenly realm. God gives me vision, and I'm talking about just glimpses of being with God, glimpses of, of the things that God has in store in his mind. Like, you can fly. You understand? You have a lot of hidden powers that you don't even know about. And we want to keep people here. A lot of that stuff be for us. A lot of them things be for us, man. Funerals and all of these processions, they be for us. Do you understand? The living. But don't you think that if these things are for us, don't you think that the dead, those who are in the afterlife, who we claim, like, if we claim that they live in the way that righteously, like they supposed to, like we all supposed to, looking down on us, shouldn't we be celebrating their life, celebrating their transition into being with God? And shouldn't we be mourning our situation here, that we need to get ourselves together? You understand? Mourning that we have some who still don't have a relationship with the Creator, that we need to get them right, because they can die and end up in hell. We won't see them again. For the loved ones who had a relationship with the Creator, shouldn't we understand that we're going to meet them again in the sky with the Lord? Stop it. Okay? Stop being phony. Person like me, man, if you weren't there for me in my life, you weren't really rocking with me while I was alive, I don't care if I don't need to have a funeral. Just gather my ashes in the sea, and let that be the case. Or I'll just, for whoever want to come, they come, whatever. But I don't really see the point of paying all this. A lot of people go broke doing this. A lot of people, can't even afford to bury their loved ones. This costs a lot of money. Funeral homes gaining major money. Funeral homes get bank. You know how many people die? Funeral homes bank off that. So look, I'm just not gonna be phony. Never, ever, ever. You know, and that's just that. Let the dead bury the dead. You need to be mourning for the people who here, people who suffering, people who don't have a relationship with the creator. And if you really care about them, then help them. If you got family members you love and you see them in need, help, go out and help them. Go over there and see them sometime while they're living. Don't worry about when they're dead. Treat them right. Treat people right while they living. Quit berating them. Quit always trying to talk at people and making them feel bad, not caring about their feelings. And these people in your family, like you have family members who hate each other. You have family members who can't get along. Kids who, when they get out the household, they'll never come back to their home because they family treated them so bad. So instead of worrying about the dead, worry about the living and trying to help them. And don't let the dead suck you down into Sheol with them. You understand? Because it's like some people, I just told you that some people die, and then they get into the living, get into a spiral, a downward spiral of depression and following the dead. Don't you understand? They follow them right into the grave. Satan uses that. Do not fall in that trap. So with that being said, this is Solican, and this is the Awakening Podcast. Peace and blessings to the hearers and doers of the Lord's word. I'm gone.